Hello everyone, this is AG47 Liberty, and today I'm going to bring you the Silver Soap Opera Episode 2. And this one's going to be, I think, quite interesting and quite important, especially as it pertains to what's going on today in Libya and the rest of the Middle East. Okay, so Silver Soap Opera Episode 2, and this episode isn't going to concern silver so much as it's going to concern gold. Gold is silver's prettier sister, and everyone wants her, but she knows no master, and will always go to whomever treats her the best. Okay, now this is what started all this. I got a news release today about Iran. It says news was released today saying Iran has doubled from about 160 tons to about 300 tons of its gold reserves by dumping U.S. dollars. Iran still has over 100 billion in currency reserves. All the oil-producing nations in the Middle East have large paper currency reserves similar to Iran, and they've all been buying gold. These countries are all predominantly Muslim. Iran alone could absorb all the gold production for 1 year. Imagine what would happen if they all want to shed their Western Christian paper currency reserves. Okay, just with that $100 billion, Iran alone could buy 30,000 tons of gold at a price of $1,500 US at current prices. Okay, so let's read on. Iran and the rest of the Middle East must be brought back into the fold. Established in 1971, when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, which was defined by the Bretton Woods Agreement, which was made after World War II, that all transactions must be settled in gold. Well, because of our Vietnam War and the Great Society under Johnson, welfare, warfare state, U.S. spent itself silly, and we didn't have any gold left. So Nixon, instead of admitting we're broke, closed the gold window, August 15th, 1971, and took us unofficially, unilaterally, illegally off the gold standard. So, I believe the reason Nixon took us off the gold standard was because the U.S. had run out of gold. He had to find another commodity to back the U.S. dollar. He used oil and made a deal with the Saudis. The deal is the U.S. would defend Saudi Arabia and use her oil. In exchange, Saudi Arabia had to price oil in dollars. Since Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil supplier, this gave plenty of backing to the dollar when the Saudis took the deal. And so in order to make sure that we used her oil, the U.S. started passing regulations using environmentalism, taxation, and they basically started shutting down our domestic oil production and exploration. So, things were quiet for a while until Iran left the reservation. They left the fold with a revolution and kicked the U.S. out of Iran, and they took control of their oil. In the early 80s, George Bush Sr. was head of the CIA, hires Iraq's Saddam Hussein to invade Iran. Saddam fails. 10 years later, Saddam falls out of favor with the U.S. and publicly states he will no longer accept U.S. dollars for his oil. He wants anything but U.S. dollars. President Bush Sr. now, that's right, he's senior, and his son Junior, remember they cooked up 2 wars with Iraq, ousted Saddam, killed him and his sons, and reestablished the oil for U.S. dollar program. Now, let's jump another 10 years in the future. Now it's 2003, and there was an article in the Asian Times, And it was published, now pay attention to the date, on July the 4th, 2003. They knew what they were doing. All right, let me read some excerpts from this article. It's out of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. Malaysia's efforts to use the gold dinar for trade with Iran is Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad's latest initiative to overhaul the international financial system, which he has long criticized as being skewed toward rich countries and speculators. If successful, this could extend to 32 countries that have bilateral payment agreements with Malaysia. Mahathir told an international convention here on Tuesday on the gold dinar as an alternative international currency. And who are some of those 32 countries? Most of them are Muslim. They are Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Morocco, Qatar, who's also buying silver, by the way, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tunisia, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. It was the latest, and here we're going to go on with the article. It was the latest of Mahathir's attempts to sell the concept of using, instead of US dollar, the gold dinar, a monetary unit whose value is based on the price of gold. In international settlements between national banks, for instance, I guess they also did something around February the 8th also that year. Okay, here's another statement. We need to make a stop to the artificial manipulation of currencies, said Raha Mohammed, Vice President of the Malaysian Islamic Chamber of Commerce and convener of the Tuesday's conference. Interesting. A publisher and marketing executive, Raha believes that gold dinar trade has another aspect to it. It can help forge unity among Muslim nations. What are we trying to do right now? Break up that unity. Get it? Are you starting to draw the lines between the dots? It is because of the Muslim world's dependence on the United States that the neighboring Arab countries were not able to stop the war on Iraq. He argued, if we don't need to depend on the US dollar for trade between our countries, that will be a good foundation to forge Muslim unity, he said. Interesting, isn't it? Here's some more. Ralston Thiedman, Senior Director of the Singapore-based Swiss Asia Capital, told the convention that the establishment of the gold dinar currency is in direct contradiction to and forbidden by the existing rules of the IMF. That's the International Monetary Fund. And who set up and runs the International Monetary Fund? That's right, the United States and her Western allies. He added that an initial fallout of the scheme would be that countries using the gold dinar would use fewer US dollars in their international trade, and this would lead to the further weakening of the US currency. What has the US currency been experiencing the whole decade of the 2000s? It's been getting weaker and weaker and weaker, especially as of late. Raha admits that Washington may try to sabotage the gold dinar idea. No doubt the dinar will affect U.S. power, he noted. But we want to ensure that the Islamic world can start something to change the world. Well, I think they've kicked this beehive, and the United States is retaliating the only way they know how. So, after reading this article, it does make me pause and gives me cause for concern. I do find it odd that the entire region would explode and the U.S. is using violence and war to change the regimes. The U.S. government has done it before in Iraq. Why not do it to all the Islamic nations who may have been challenging the US dollar for oil program? Just think, all this death and destruction just so the US government can keep the phony money scam going, which makes my motto ring ever more true. Trust in God. Everyone else pays in silver, and in this case, gold too. Good night, everybody.